Yo guys, it's been a very long time since my last video. Unfortunately, I had too much stuff to worry about and I could not spend my spare time making these YouTube videos, but hopefully I'll be back with some better ones that I hope you guys enjoy. This is a video I wanted to do for a very long time because I've noticed this problem many years ago. I never really had the chance to make this video, but finally here it is, and it's about rust on metallic cases and steelbooks. This problem originally happened to me when I was collecting PlayStation 2 games. There were a few limited editions or special editions that had a metallic case instead of the regular plastic cases. I believe this was the first time metal cases were being made for video games. And after a few years of owning those steel cases, I've realized that many of them started to gain some rust dots around the edges and on the corners of the box, which was very annoying. There are many different types of steel cases. Steelbook is probably the most popular type. This is a brand produced by a company named Scanavo, but this problem of rusting actually happens to a majority of steel cases, not just steelbooks in particular. But since Steelbook is the most popular brand, I will be talking a lot about it during this video. First of all, please let me say that I'm making this video based in my personal experience, but I also made some research before talking about some of the stuff I will say later in the video. I know this is a rather controversial subject, because there are a lot of people out there who really enjoy to collect steelbooks and they probably won't accept this idea very well. But this really is a problem that can happen under certain circumstances. I'm making the video to share this problem with you guys, to raise awareness that it may happen. It doesn't necessarily have to happen, so please don't get upset and don't think I'm making this video just to make you think bad stuff about steelbook in general or to prevent you from collecting further steelbooks. That's not the point. I understand if you get upset, but I'm not making this video with that purpose. I can pretty much guess what some of you guys are thinking right now. You're thinking that steelbooks are made of stainless steel with additional protective layers of varnish and painting, and as such they cannot rust. But the truth is, that's not exactly what happens. In first place, steelbooks are made of steel sheets that are not stainless steel, so they can rust. And in the majority of these boxes, the protective layers are not enough to prevent rusting. A long time ago I have contacted Scanavo, the makers of steelbook, and they've provided some very clear information regarding the rust process on steelbooks, and they acknowledge it may happen under certain circumstances. They've also provided some important information regarding the fabrication process of these boxes. So, steelbooks are made of flat steel sheets that need to be molded in the shape of a steelbook, but in order to do that, they have to bend those steel sheets. As a result, this bending process may cause some very tiny cracks and fissures that you cannot see with your naked eye, but these cracks expose the rough metal to the atmosphere, and this is one of the main reasons why the rust first appears around the edges and on the corners of the steelbook. Another thing you guys are probably thinking is that this only happens if you mistreat your steelbook collection, if you let it get scratched by handling in inappropriate ways, or if the painting is coming off. But I must say that this is not true. It's true that scratches and damage to the painting contributes to the appearance of rust, because it just accelerates the process basically. But it is not the main cause for rust to appear on steelbooks in the first place. So, what is exactly the cause for steelbook rusting? Well, the answer is actually quite simple. It's basically humidity. Relative humidity corresponds to the percentage of water vapor that exists in the air in our atmosphere. which is affected by a certain number of factors like temperature and air pressure. In order for us humans to feel comfortable not just outside but also inside our homes, the air cannot be too dry nor too humid, and that depends on the percentage of relative humidity it carries. If it's too dry or too humid, it may affect our health, and it may also cause damage to the materials we have inside our homes. So basically, when exposed to a certain percentage of relative humidity, steelbooks eventually tend to rust. And when I say exposed to humidity, it doesn't necessarily mean that you leave your steelbooks outside exposed to rain and other atmospheric conditions. It's basically the air that's inside your house that may affect the condition of your collection. So, as you can probably tell already, climate and weather play a major role here. I've seen all types of people from around the world saying that they never had problems with their steelbook collection, but I've also seen people claiming that after a while they started to notice some rust around the edges of the boxes. If you live in a well-insulated house and in an area that has a dry climate throughout most of the year, you probably won't notice anything happen to your collection because the rusting process is much slower in these circumstances. One thing about living in a place that has a very high humidity level is that you basically just need to open a door or a window in order for the air saturated with water vapor to come inside your house. And sometimes that's not easy to control because you can see absolutely no signs of excessive humidity inside the house. Unless it's really excessive, which causes the appearance of condensation or even mold growing on the walls, sometimes you cannot tell that it's already causing damage to your steelbook collection. If you live by the sea in coastal areas, you might have even bigger problems. And that's because the air that comes from the sea carries not just a great amount of water vapor, but also other substances due to the salinity of the sea, which are very corrosive to metals. This raises a serious question, which is, what can you do to prevent your steelbook collection from rusting when you first start to realize it's happening? Well, I really wish I could help you with this situation, but unfortunately I tried a lot of things for myself and I could never find a serious solution. However, I have a few clues on what you can possibly do to prevent this from happening to you. One thing that every collector should have is a hygrometer. A hygrometer is a small device that allows you to measure not just the temperature but also the percentage of relative humidity you have inside the rooms where you store your collections. This will give you an idea if the room where you store your stuff has the appropriate conditions to maintain and preserve your collection. You will want to keep indoor relative humidity at about 50%, maybe a little bit lower, but never above 60%, because at that point you may have problems. The more humidity you have inside your house, the faster the rusting process becomes. There are also indoor activities that produce vapor, such as taking showers or even cooking, and it is always recommended that you ventilate the house after performing these activities in order to reduce the humidity present inside the house. So, if you have a little bit too much humidity, what can you do to reduce it? Well, it's hard for me to answer that question because I never found an efficient solution. But there are a couple of things you can try, like raising the internal temperature of your house, because making the air drier reduces the percentage of relative humidity inside the house. You also need a good ventilation, because if you leave a closed space with air saturated trapped inside, you may have condensation problems. And you could also try to buy a dehumidifier, which removes the excessive humidity from the air, leaving the air drier inside the compartment where you have the device operating. There are also products in the market, like sprays and varnishes, that supposedly add a transparent layer that protects against corrosion. I have tested just a few, and I don't know how effective they are because I only did that to steelbooks that already had some rust on them. I was too afraid to damage my other steelbooks that were still in perfect condition, so I don't know how effective those products are. Maybe some people in the comments might have some additional information about those. Another thing I currently do is to leave my steelbooks in factory sealed condition, because this way they usually don't rust, like the others that I have in used condition. So finally, to end the video, uh, I must say again that I only did this video in order to raise awareness about this particular problem with steelbooks. I did not do the video to leave you guys concerned or worried that your collection might get rust, because as you can tell by now, there are several factors involved in that process and you might not be affected by it. I really hope you don't. I wish I knew this information before I started collecting steelbooks, because it has happened to me and it gave me a lot of headaches. Anyway, I hope some of the information provided in the video is useful to you, and I guess that's it. See you next time. Hope you enjoyed.